Vindicated. Vindicated. How long have we been talking about this? Vindicated. When I was on Sam Hyde's podcast, we talked about Diddy and the Boule, which is what he's talking about, which is like the Black Secret Society right here. Now, when we did this podcast, that day we were filming that at Sam Hyde's, the story was going viral on TikTok that Diddy was going to name names. That ended up being a fake video, which we didn't know that day that this broke, because it was literally happening right when I was filming it. And they started talking about it. It was new to me. I didn't know about it. So that part of this video is incorrect. However, the rest of what we talk about in this video, and this video has over 300,000 on YouTube. So that's over 500,000 combined on this talk. If you watch this, we actually called a lot of this too, because we went into the Boule Society, which this guy brings up.
But some of them.
Oh, the reason I mention that is that it's like the black version of the Freemasons mixed with college fraternities. If you don't know about this is an interesting, and I'm assuming that Sigma Pi Phi. I'm gonna bet that people like Oprah and I'll bet you Morgan Freeman, basically all of the black Democratic elite, they're all tied into this, and this recruits black people out of college. Is why this is relevant. MLK was part of it. Let's see. I mean, I'm not saying that this runs the world. I'm just saying that it's one of the many interconnected societies that is part of the establishment that networks, but it's a network for prominent black people. Yes. Is there a black society of elite? I think, anyway, I would assume that all of the most powerful black leaders like Oprah are also involved in this. The word means council of chiefs or advisors to kings. Boule was, for much of its existence, an invitation-only society for black men. Okay, so I guess technically it's not for women, but still. Some have said it's a black version of Skull and Bones. That's very likely possible. Let's see if there's any connection to that in Oprah. The Boule-Oprah connection, let's see.
The question, which is the Black Boule.
Boule?
Boule.
What does that mean?
Boule, which is, you could say, the secret organization of rich black folks, millionaires and billionaires who are working on behalf of the system of white supremacy. They had a cartoon about it in
Yeah, they're not working to prop up white supremacy, I can tell you that. So a lot of people's conspiracy theories, especially black people's conspiracy theories, they're always like half true, and then it's like the end goal is something ridiculous, right? It's like the real goal of this society is to prevent us from creating pyramids that can actually fly and that are tricked out. That's not the goal, dude. Come on. Anyway, we don't even need to know if Oprah is part of this. I mean, Oprah's obviously like super corrupt, so do we even need that?
Corroborated by things we've learned since. And in this first video, we're going to dig into what he calls the hip-hop agenda. But first, if you're not familiar with what happened and what this dude did to get arrested, let's watch a tape. So this is security camera footage from Trump National Hotel, Doral, Miami, Florida. And this is from back in 2018, and it's sped up, and there's a couple places where the stamp time lapses, and I won't show you the whole thing. And he runs. He gets shot 3 times.
I'm gonna skip
like
this
3 hours last night
for YouTube,
transcribing it all and trying to figure out his voice, because he's got a super weird voice. And I've been digging through corroborating all the crazy things he says in this interview. But one of the most interesting things is about the hip-hop agenda. Before we get to that, let's do the Diddy stuff, because he made all these claims before anyone officially knew anything about Diddy. Check this out.
Do you know Sean Combs?
Daddy.
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself.
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with people and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay? For them, that's what I want.
So he's saying in these interrogations that Diddy has cameras everywhere, and he makes everybody into being sex slaves. And of course, everybody thought, well, you're just some crazy like SHOOTER man. So this is nonsense. But it turns out pretty much everything even though he's crazy, what he's saying is true.
That's all. All right. I called herpes, and I came back and I seen for the herpes and won. But they didn't. Mark Garagos and Ben Mercedes were his attorneys. Okay. And Christopher Leon's here was my attorney. They asked me to turn in that, which was the video recording, and I did so.
Looking into the lawyers he just named, there's all kinds of dirt down that rabbit hole, but that's for another video. But when you watch the interview,
So those are all connected to Jacko, the lawyers he's talking about.
you can tell that the investigators are like, this guy's fucking schizophrenic. What the hell is he talking about? And he like keeps on trying to like redirect him without making him feel defensive, as though they don't believe him. But now we know that what he said about Diddy was 100% on point. Like, in a way that you could only know if you actually were.
Ian Carroll looks like a cross between like an 80s police officer that's going to pull you over, but also the guy that's going to sell you the weed at the same time. Like, he looks like the perfect crossover between the weed dealer, but also, if he didn't have the long hair, the cop that would be pulling you over and giving you a ticket and searching your car. So he's an interesting person.
A Diddy sex slave. Because if you don't know, Diddy liked to pay sex workers to have sex with his girlfriend, and he would watch and film and direct and jerk off, as well as a whole bunch of other super dark shit. Now, let's get into the juicy part right here. The hip-hop agenda.
Basically, what happens is the hip-hop agenda to move drugs all over the United States. You need to invoke the they move all the dope, all the jets, which don't get by
customs,
by
anybody.
So this guy says that hip hop is a cover for moving dope through the private jets, which that sounds exactly like the kind of stuff we've talked about over here, right? I mean, that's like Barry Seal type stuff, except that instead of it being some dude, who's claims to be bringing cigars from Cuba, it's not cigars.
Inside the United States, they move what's called high-grade powdered MDMA. They move cocaine, and they move liquid cocaine in their bottles too. Okay, so they put the liquid cocaine in the bottles and they move it. I've seen the liquid cocaine, I've tried it myself, having sex with Diddy and Cassie. Okay, it's not good. He drinks all the time.
So he's saying Diddy is involved in bringing in a lot of high-grade liquid cocaine and other forms of it. I don't know if that's true, but it wouldn't surprise me. And isn't that interesting that if we go back to one of the first Biggie hits, in Hypnotize, the very video has them running from the DEA, supposedly for probably criminal activities. I think the video doesn't exactly make it clear what they're up to. But in the song, Biggie raps about the DEA and all this, the feds coming after him. And they're like James Bond villains on the boat, right? They've got money and hoes, and they're fleeing from the feds on their Bond yachts and stuff, right? And the whole video is basically them running from the feds, presumably because they're running illegal operations. And they're pictured here like Bond villains, etc. And then I think they end up getting away in the video. Remember that? I just thought that was funny because this kind of sounds like what this guy's describing in there, that their operation is really about. Again, we don't know if that's the case, but that might have been why he was allowed to continue on.
Or I call it GG, that's liquid cocaine. Alright. How do I know there's a conspiracy against Trump? Because it's in the Illuminati card deck.
Okay, we're about to go into the Illuminati card deck and all sorts of other things.
So again, this dude is half nuts, right? The fact that something's in the Illuminati card deck doesn't mean that it's true. But there are some weird things about the Illuminati card deck. But regardless, like what this guy's saying does seems kind of like it's possible.
That's for another video. And yes, we're going to have a disclaimer about the amount of tinfoil required for this in just a second. But first, Sigma Pi Phi, or the Black Boule, is the oldest black fraternity in the United States.
I covered this with Sam Hyde, so I wonder if Ian Carroll watches our stuff, because we just covered this on the Sam Hyde podcast.
States. And this,
like 6 months ago.
Is its symbol, and it's a real thing. And it used to be kind of a secret society, and now it's like a public fraternity all across the U.S. And that symbol looks an awful lot like LeBron's chest tattoo.
Yeah, again, it's the fraternity for the black elite. And, of course, it's not surprising that LeBron would definitely be probably somebody associated with this.
For starters, Black Boule deserves a whole other video, as does LeBron James. But y'all remember Juice WRLD? Who died suddenly of a heart attack during a police raid on his plane where they found 41 vacuum-sealed bags of marijuana?
So the concerts happen to be covert covers for trafficking various illegal substances, it seems. And that makes absolutely perfect sense. By the way, we've covered where movie filming events are also covers for this. In fact, it even came out in one of the stories about Arnon Milchan that was a cover for Mossad operations or something like that. There's an allegation that Milchan's films were various operations other than just making a movie. Ben Affleck made a whole movie that he won an Academy Award for, Argo, where Argo was a cover for a CIA operation. Red Scorpion with Dolph. Jack Abramoff is the producer of that movie. Again, there's all kinds of weird things like this which I think are very sus. And point to this beyond the music world, also into the Hollywood world.
Died of a heart attack during the raid. Kind of weird. He was 21 years old at the time. And there are many instances of people getting caught smuggling drugs on private planes. All of these guys apparently did not have the protection of the rap industry or the Black Boule or whoever. I'm serious. Tons of different instances.
Well, it's not just the rap industry and the Boule. It's the State Department. It's intelligence agencies. It's that entrenched superstructure.
But it gets even more interesting when you look at what rappers own private jets. We'll skip to number 2, Diddy, whose plane is renowned for its intercontinental range. But number 1 is Jay-Z, and it was a gift from Bay, meaning probably a tax write-off, because they're pretty smart business people. Then you got Drake, who, aside from Russian oligarch, Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, at least formerly before they confiscated it, whole other Vegas shooting rabbit hole. Drake's plane is one of the 5 largest private jets in the world at the time in 2023. Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, who is mentioned in this interview directly, 50 Cent, and Travis Scott.
So it looks like part of the rap deal is that you're also going to be involved in other types of operations, allegedly.
There's probably more. That's just who was in that one article. And speaking of liquid cocaine, Ciroc Vodka and De Leon Tequila are mentioned multiple times in the original lawsuit, and they had partnerships directly with Diddy. But it's hard to tell what of this guy's testimony is him knowing things from firsthand knowledge versus him self-admittedly just doing a whole bunch of internet research and piecing things together and deciding to save the world by warning Donald Trump about a plot to kill him by his cousins, all the other presidents, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And if you're a real conspiracy nut, you might be like, yeah, dude. And if you're not, you might be like, yeah, this guy's fucking crazy. And you might fall somewhere in the middle in that.
Yeah, I mean, this was before all the stuff coming out about Diddy. See, so even though this dude is crazy, crazy people can say things that are correct. They can know, stuff that was really going down. Just because they're crazy doesn't mean it's not true. See, I thought there was another Ian Carroll clip about Diddy I was going to play. I don't know. I'm not sure. But before we do that, I want to remind you of this, because this also is a telling admission of the very stuff that we've covered for so long. Now, this doesn't mean that she necessarily is directly doing NATO propaganda. It means that it's very likely that she could be, and that it's very clear that this is a normal thing for NATO to engage in.
Star in the world. Sorry, Gutfeld. She's been blanketed across the sports media entertainment atmosphere. The New York Times just speculated she's a lesbian. And last year's tour broke Ticketmaster. A tour that's revenue tops the GDP of 50 countries. I mean, I like her music. She's all right. But I mean, have you ever wondered why or how she blew up like this? Well, around 4 years ago, the Pentagon's Psychological Operations Unit floated turning Taylor Swift into an asset during a NATO meeting. What kind of asset? A psyop for combating online misinformation. Listen.
You came in here wanting to understand how you just go out there and counter an information operation. Well, the idea is that social influence can help encourage or promote behavior change, so potentially as like a peaceful information operation.
The Pentagon PSYOP unit pitched NATO on turning Taylor Swift into an asset.
Huge vindication of things that we've talked about for 15 years over here. Do you know how many times I've been called insane conspiracy theorists for this stuff, which is easily documented? And this is something that, I mean, Elvis was involved in large-scale propaganda for the U.S. military back in his day. Why would anyone think that this is false? And then they immediately all are proponents for the Democratic candidates. Remember, Katy Perry was suddenly, she played all the Democratic events. She's always playing DNC events. because she also is part of this superstructure.